Hello, and welcome to episode 6 of the Knitting Traditions podcast. And if you're a new viewer, welcome. My name is Inga, and this is my dog Pia. She's a 14-and-a-half-year-old Cocker Spaniel, and we live on the west coast of Norway in a little village where I'm currently working as a family doctor for 6 months. And you can find me on Instagram as Knitting Traditions with an S. That's where I post most pictures and I'm mostly active on there. And I'm also on Ravelry as Knitting Tradition without the S. And I'm trying to be better at putting all my projects on there with more than just the end date and a photo. I'm trying to put on the designer and the yarn I've used and the needle size if anyone feels inspired to make the same. And also I made a Ravelry group for this podcast. It's called Knitting Traditions on Ravelry. I'll link everything below in the description box. And I've put up 2 threads. One of them is an introduction thread where you can write a little bit about yourself if you would like to. And the other thread is a question thread because I got so many lovely comments on the last 2 videos. And a lot of the comments were that they would like to see me knitting. And I was thinking of starting to doing like sit and knit with me sections at the end of some of the episodes, and I need things to talk about, so that's why I wanted to do a questions thread. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. It's really taken off with this podcast. I've gotten over 3,000 subscribers, which I think it's made my year. Like, I can go back and look at this even if it goes downhill from here, and it will just fill me with so much love, so thank you so much. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm getting really warm. I'm wearing a sweater in the yarn Brusca from Retrosaria Pomar from Portugal, and it's really warm. But I wanted to show it to you guys because in the last episode I had introduced a giveaway and I asked people to write about their favorite yarn, and a lot of people loved the yarn from Retrosaria Pomar. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I also love her yarn. I do have a lot of it in my stash. I think it was two years ago. Me and my boyfriend went to Lisbon for our winter break, and I of course had to go to her beautiful store. And I got the Brusca yarn. I also got some Donegal tweed and some, is it called Vivo yarn? Or yeah, not Vivo, I think. I'll show you in a different episode if I brought it with me here. Or if not, in 4 months I'll be back where I used to live, where I have the rest of my stash. So this is the Brusca yarn in the natural undyed, I think, the white one. And the brown one, I'm not sure about the color, but it's the lovely, it's a lovely brown tone. And this pattern is called, I will have to check. A lot of people tend to knit color work more tightly, so a lot of patterns do recommend you to increase your needle size by a half or a whole when you go to the color work section. I, however, tend to pull my stitches on the needle a lot to prevent the kind of snurpy effect where it kind of pulls together, because I did that on my first colorwork project, so I'm careful to kind of pull all the stitches to keep the floats long enough. And what actually happened with this one is that the colorwork section was bigger in gauge, or like it was more loose than the normal stockinette one. So what I did when blocking it is I tried to stretch the stockinette part a little bit more. It didn't work perfectly. You can kind of see that it's bigger here, but I don't mind. It's super warm and nice. So that's all that matters, I think. And I wanted to prepare the name of this sweater before coming on here, but I just got back from driving my boyfriend to the ferry. He has to take the ferry across the fjord to take a bus back home for 2.5 hours. So I decided I just needed to start filming because it's getting dark really quickly now, especially after we turn the clock, which we do every 6 months or so to adjust for the darker season. So if I wanted to get this movie done before it was too dark, I just had to start recording. So yeah, this is a pattern called Manu. I'll write it below. It's from Isabel Kramer, and I knit the size small in the Brusca yarn from Retrosaria Pomar. But I think if I were to knit it again, I could have also knit it in an XS. I tend to either want my sweaters to not have that much of a positive ease, meaning that it doesn't have that many more centimeters in circumference than my actual circumference, or if I do want a baggy one, I want it to be really baggy, not something in between. I don't find that that suits my body type as much. Being a tall person already, I don't want to look bigger, and if I do, it needs to be obvious that it's a bigger sweater than me. So I can pretend I'm tiny underneath, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's a lovely pattern. I really like the design. I think I could have also maybe done a repeat on the arms, but I didn't. It has the colorwork yoke up here, as well as a bottom section. And it knit up really quickly, and it's very warm, so it's perfect for the next season. Although in here it's a little bit too warm, if I'm gonna be honest. I have some finished objects, but first, if you are sitting down, make yourself a cup of tea or coffee and enjoy it with me. This is a cup or a mug that I bought from a market when I went to Tokyo last year. And on the outside it's quite rough, but it does have some beautiful coloring on the inside. And when I have warm tea in it, it tends to have little dew droplets, which makes it really pretty. And I am drinking my own homemade cappuccino blend because I need coffee today. And I don't drink black coffee unless I have to. I always have milk in it because it's more easy on the stomach, so I find I can have more coffee that way. And I do love a cappuccino blend. So this one is made with hot chocolate powder, cinnamon, vanilla powder or vanilla sugar, the powdered one, and we call it muscat nut. It's like a nut that you can grind the powder. It's used in a lot of Christmassy foods. I will put the ingredients below because I don't remember the English word, I'm so sorry, but I'll put it below. So last time, or for every last episode, I've been talking about this gigantic blanket that I made in Holst Supersoft. And last time I finished the baby blanket, but I hadn't woven or tied in the ends, and I hadn't blocked it or washed it. So now I have. It's still see-through, but it did bloom a lot. It's a lot less stiff now, it's a lot softer, and I just wanted to bring it up again today because I did notice that the color in this super soft yarn from Holst does tend to bleed a lot when you wash it. So I think I rinsed this out 3 or 4 times before it stopped bleeding a lot of color, which means when you put it in the water turns this color, which if you like to wash your woolen knits in the machine together with other wools, it's a good idea to rinse this out by hand first. If not, you risk all your other woolens to get this color. And generally that's a good idea with most knits, to just rinse it out 1 or 2 times before either starting to use it or before you wash it with other things. And I tend to just put it in the sink in like a normal tempered water, like whatever feels like nothing against this area of your skin. And then I put in a little special wool soap. In Norway, every store sells soap, especially for woolen silks, so you could use that, but that one you have to rinse out. There are also certain wool soaps that you can buy, such as Soak, which is a liquid soap that you don't have to rinse out. So if I need to soften up a knit, I tend to just put it in that water with some soak, and I just leave it overnight, and then the next day it's all soft and nice. Just needs to dry up. So that was that. And I'm putting this inside a fruit basket that I bought at the local store. I normally keep fruit in this, but I just wanted to separate my finished objects from my works in progress. So, last episode I was working on this cowl, and it's finished. I am calling this my Selbu Cowl because it has this, what you call it, a Selbu rose. Let's see if I can, here, yeah. This is a typical Norwegian Selbu rose used in a lot of different mitten patterns, and I just incorporated it into a cowl with 3 repeats, and I have a twisted rib on the top and on the bottom, and this orange color is changing color from a darker to lighter. I used a Kauni yarn, which I learned from one of my subscribers. It's not a Danish yarn per se, it's made in Estonia. So that was really cool. I've tried yarn from Estonia, but it's then sent to Denmark, who sells it. Kauni is the name, and it's a variegated yarn, and I got a lot of comments that people will use it for shawls. So I think it's going to be super nice to keep me warm this winter. And I paired it with Rauma finull, which has the same gauge, so I think they would also look great in some colorwork mittens. And at the risk of me fainting from heat, I'm gonna show you how it looks. So this one is quite large. I do like to felt my cowls a little bit because that makes them windproof, but yeah, so this is the cowl. It kind of stands up on its own a little bit because it's a more dense, hard woolen yarn. It kind of sticks to itself, and I do want that effect. I don't want it to lie down like this because it wouldn't be warm. I want it to cover my ears and my neck and jawline so that I stay warm when it gets cold outside. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. It's not perfect. I wouldn't say that I'm that good at colorwork knitting, but practice makes perfect. And so it's a little bit uneven, even though I washed it and then I steam blocked it with my iron. And when I steam block, I always do it inside out. So I lie it down like this on a wet towel, and I'll have another wet towel above it, and then I'll iron it because I don't want to burn my precious knitwear. And these are all my little floats. I make sure to catch them every 3 stitches if I have a longer repeat of one color, just so that I won't catch it on my earrings or whatever when I put it on. So yeah, my Selbu Cowl. And I talked in the last episode about how I just made a swatch to figure out the size. So you could go back if you're interested. And then other works in progress. I haven't been working on my cabled sweater this week. I just didn't have the mental capacity. Sometimes you just need to knit something either simple, stockinette, so you can just watch TV and don't have to think about anything, or maybe just something that goes a little bit faster, because even though I do love the sweater and I'm very excited for it to be finished, it does take a lot of time to make progress on it. So I made a swatch with the Mohair yarn that I got at the knitting festival last weekend, and I got the Lykke needles. These are the Lykke needles, and I got them, well, I've always wanted them, but at the festival they were recommended to me, especially for knitting with mohair, because the mohair doesn't slip off as easily then as it does with metal. But to my disappointment, I realized that the needles that I needed for my mohair sweater project was a 7mm. And this set doesn't have 7mm. It has everything from 3.5 to 12mm, but not 7mm. So that made me a little bit sad, but I'll use it for a lot of other projects, so it's okay. Not a big deal. But I am loving this mohair sweater. It's not really my colors. I am more into the fall, warm, earthy tones, but there was a gold aspect in this that I absolutely loved. The reason I was a bit unsure about this is the blue. The blue really isn't anything that I ever make. I don't own blue yarn. I've never knitted anything blue except for once, but that wasn't for me. That was my sister-in-law who wanted a sweater, so I can put that picture here. I don't have it anymore, of course. But this blue is growing on me for one reason, and that is that I think it made the gold thread on this section pop out. And I really love the sparkly gold in this. And I'm also, of course, loving this section with the gold and brown, which is my colors. So it's not done, of course. This is the back piece. The shoulders will be seamed here, and there will also be a neckline. And the body is knit in the round until you divide for the sleeves. So this is the front part of the lower body. And then you're supposed to knit the sleeves and then sew them on. I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to pick up stitches and knit down instead, so it's less sewing. This, however, it's so thick. Like, can you see this? It's so thick and so warm and squishy and lovely. I highly, highly recommend. And the yarn is called, let's see, it's African Expressions, oh, focus, no? It's African Expressions Love, which is a luxurious brushed mohair for a soft touch. It's 78% mohair, 13% wool, and 9% nylon. And I got it from a lady who owns an online store called Mohairia, and she ships internationally if anyone's interested. I'll put it below. And it also has a gold effect thread for the gold sections. So that was that. Otherwise, I almost finished my Cocker Spaniel. Isn't she or he cute? So this is, it doesn't look exactly like my dog, it's the wrong colors, but it's the same breed. And it's missing the nose, that's the only thing that's remaining. I did make the nose, but I didn't like how it turned out, so I removed it, stuffed the head a little bit more, but I didn't have enough black thread in the kit to make a new nose. I did find the kit to be good. It included everything you needed. It's from TOFT, and they call it a level 2 easy. However, when I went to their website for the tutorial for the ears, that was a level 3, so 2 to 3 I guess. And it's from Aaaalmost, and yeah, I didn't have any more black thread left. I have a little bit of the brown color. It's an undyed alpaca yarn from their farm. It's an alpaca farm in the UK, and they have hundreds of crocheted animals. So if you want to make some for your kids, your grandkids, your friends' kids, these are perfect. And I'm just keeping this for myself. I now have a dog and a sheep back in my other apartment that someone else is renting, so I don't have access to it. But yeah, I think I'm gonna make more in the future. I want to make a monkey, I want to make all the sheep breeds. They say it takes anything from a few hours to 5 hours. I'd say it takes me 12 hours at least, but I don't know how to crochet, so for me it's not that easy, but I'm learning as I go, and it's just too cute. So that's my dog. My boyfriend, who was here this weekend, told me to give it to my dog as a little pet. I told him that's not happening, it's mine. But it's new. Very cute, if I may say so. Other than that, let's see. I do have another whip in progress and 2 crochet blankets that I wanted to show because I did get a lot of comment from people who not only knit but they also crochet. So I wanted to share some long time whips that I am not currently working on, but I'm gonna pick them back up. And the one that's made the most progress is this blanket. And this blanket is made up of mini skeins from Grenouille company, who I bought my first advent from last Christmas. So these are the earthy and darker tones and blues and greens, and it's gonna fit a single person bed, is that what you call it? Queen size? No, not even queen size, a small bed. And I'm gonna put scraps in here from projects that are brown and green, that kind of things. It's all fingering. Until now I have not kept track of which color is what, but on my Ravelry page I will put that in the future as I'm working on it for you guys. I will get better, I promise. And in this bag, which I sewed this up myself with some fabric that I bought in Tanzania when I was working in Haidom. It's a village in the middle of nowhere. And I was working there as a volunteer for a few weeks, and there was some ladies in the village who sold fabric from their living room, and I got this beautiful, beautiful fabric that I just sewed with an orange zipper and a very unprofessional stitched lining in cotton. And inside I am keeping this crocheted blanket. Oh, it's getting dark outside, I'm sorry. Which are purples and whites. And this is very, very long. It would fit a king-size bed, so it will take forever to make. And I did acquire some more colors from Grenouille Co, full skeins, to work on this. But I have decided to do a little bit more projects first because I want to see what leftovers I'll have to plan out the colors a little bit more. And this weekend my boyfriend was here and we went on a lovely hike yesterday. I'll put a little bit of footage at the end of the video. And when we got back, the farmer who owns this barn that I'm living in was shaving his sheep. They have mainly what you would call old Norwegian sheep or wild sheep. They are very hairy sheep, really cool ones, my favorite. And they also have one pelt sheep, which is the sheep behind my favorite yarn, which is Tinde from Hillesvåg. And I asked them, what do they do with the wool? Because when they send them for the slaughterhouse, they get the sheepskins back, like this one. They get those back, which they sell. But when they keep the sheep for more than one season, they need to shave them. And they told me that they just throw it away because nobody wants it, because it's not the softest wool. It's very, very rustic. And I was like, hey, I want it. I have a spinning machine. I suck at it, sorry, but I'm really, really bad. I've tried a few hours on it and I wish I had someone to teach me, and I will do that one day. But they gave me some yarn and I took in a little bit of it. This is from the Norwegian pelt sheep. Like, can you see how curly this is? It's not completely dry yet because I did wash this by hand yesterday, and I need to brush it out to make the fibers align before I can spin from it. And the lovely lady that I'm renting from, she knows somebody who has one of these carding machines, so hopefully I will get to do that and I'll have my own yarn one day, made from scratch, I hope. And then this is from the pelt sheep, and then I didn't wash this yet, so it's really smelly, but this is from the Norwegian wild sheep, and the fibers are very, very long, and they go from like a light gray to a darker gray, almost black. And they do come in different colors. They have some brown ones, some black ones, some more white ones, a lot of variegated colors. My favorite is like this, the more variegated, from lighter to darker tips. It's really beautiful. So I'm really excited to process this yarn and start spinning it, and then hopefully maybe if I practice with some store-bought fibers first, I get better and I can actually use the fiber that I spin for a project, and I can say that I've pet these sheep outside, I've gotten their wool, washed it, carded it, spinned it, knitted it, and wore it. And it'll be like the perfect memory from the time living here. Yes, and then the giveaway. We should not forget the giveaway. So I surpassed 1,000 subscribers by far, and there's a winner from the giveaway. And let's see, I found this random number generator, so I just plugged in the YouTube address for this last movie, and let's see, and yeah, so the winner is, let me see if I can pronounce this right, Superdrache. She wrote, "Hey, yeah, love your podcast. My favorite yarn is Knittingtraditions yarn from Sweden, an unspun organic yarn, which I also really want to try one day." And she writes that, "And I would be the most grateful chick in the world if I would win." So I guess you're the most grateful chick. She says that, "I love both colors of your lovely giveaway sock yarn and would love to try this yarn out. Greets from Germany." So I will try and find you in the YouTube comments and write to you, but if you see this movie, please get in contact with me so I can ship the giveaway your way. And for those who didn't watch the last episode, the giveaway included this tote bag with little leaf things. And she, I guess, well, Superdrache, she didn't choose which color, so she will have to specify. But the choice were between gray and yellow of the Fjord Sokkegarn from Hillesborg, which is 80% Norwegian wool and 20% nylon, and it needs 1.5 skeins to make a man's pair of socks. And also it included this knitting tool organizers, and I did bring mine today to show you because I didn't last time. So I put in my interchangeable kneading set from Knit Pro and also my carbons. And let's see if I can show you without losing everything, because I put all my cords in and there isn't really enough space for them because I have a lot of them. But yeah, so I have a gauge measure together with needle size measuring, these holes. You put the needle in to see the size. And I have the needles and the cords. Yeah. So that was in the price. And I will be doing more giveaways, I think in the near future even. So if that's something you would like, subscribe and my content will pop up on suggestions for you if I make more videos. So it's a nice way to find me if you log on to YouTube. It will be there. So I am very excited to ship this out. I do love a giveaway. I've never won one myself, but I'm just as excited or even more excited to be sharing this goodness with my viewers. And I have a surprise coming up. I don't know if I'll do it in a giveaway. Oh, I almost forgot. There's one more thing in this giveaway, and it was these stitch markers from Strickezilla, little tear-shaped stitch markers, as well as that dropped them. This little sock progress keeper. So that's really cute. Yes, somebody special contacted me on Instagram and she wants to donate something for a giveaway. So I'll either be making a giveaway before Christmas or maybe a cowl. I'm thinking like a rustic yarn cowl, or at least an unprocessed cowl, because that's nice to nature, right? So I'll get back to that in one of the next episodes to figure out what we can do. So, last whip of the week that I am working on has been my balloon sweater by Petiteknit. I finished the body. I made it into a cropped sweater, and I started on my first balloon sleeve. So it has a really nice shoulder detail of this stitch that goes down and into the arm. So that's a nice effect. And I am knitting this in 2 different yarns. I made a swatch, and the swatch told me that this is the sweater I'm gonna make, so I didn't start out with a pattern. This is Isager spinni tweed that I got from a store in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and this is Hasegawa silk mohair from Japan, the softest silk mohair I've ever touched, even softer than Tilia and Shibui silk cloud. If you've tried those, this is softer. So I think it will use 3 to 4 skeins of this, maybe just 3, and so far the whole body of the sweater was 1 skein, and I've started the second half, or the first half of the second skein for the sleeves. So it will use probably 1.5 skeins, or maybe 2, for this whole sweater. However, I am making it cropped. You can make it long or you can make it cropped, that depends on you. I like the cropped style because it is quite the baggy sweater. However, when I tried this on, it had 0 ease on my bust, which means it fits snugly on my boobs. And then it fits snugly on my waist because this is cinched in with the ribbed border, the knit 1 purl 1 edging, which meant that the section between my boobs and this rib was baggy, and I didn't really like how that looked. So what I think I'm going to do is, when I wash this, I'm going to block it so that I stretch this out, so that way it's just a straight cropped sweater, and I think it's more flattering than this kind of look. So there's that, and yeah, I think that's everything that I've been knitting on this past week, and I'm hoping that maybe next time I'll have a finished sweater object, not just little things. It all depends on how much I need to work. For those of you who would like to stay, I'm gonna do a sit and knit with me section where I knit with you, maybe, and I will tell you a little bit more about myself, what I'm watching, what I'm doing, and just chat away. Okay, so I moved the camera a little bit closer so we can all see what we're knitting on. And I'm still really warm. Sorry if you can see. I was gonna change, but it's a knitting podcast and I would rather wear knits for you guys, so we can all share in the love of knitting. We all have to sacrifice a little bit for the knitwear, right? So a lot of people has asked me how I knit, and I think this style would be termed continental knitting, or where you pick instead of flick, right? Which means that I hold the strand that I'm using in my left hand across my pinky, and I keep the yarn inside my hand as I hold the needle, and that kind of makes sure that the tension stays even. I am holding it very lightly. It's not a firm grip, but it just pulls the thread inside the crease of my hand, so it makes it nice and even. And this is the wrong way, but I'll put a little video at the end where you can see how I knit. But I'll insert my needle into the stitch, and then I'll wrap it around the yarn anti-clockwise and go back through the stitch, and that's it. And I don't know where I heard this, but I think there was a knitting competition, or somebody did some research and they found out that this way of knitting was faster than English style where you flick the yarn. So I'm really happy that this is the style that I learned, because I do knit fast, I would say. I'm not knitting that fast now because my hands are clammy and too warm. But yeah, no, this is how I knit, but I do sometimes flick if I'm doing stranded knitting. I did a sweater which had, I think, 5 different colors at the same time in a row, so that was a lot to keep track of. I couldn't hold all of them on my left finger, so I kind of just let them hang in the back, and then I put them up, I guess, half flicking, half picking style. Yeah. So I wanted to tell you the story behind the name Knitting Traditions. I picked this name from my Instagram account several years ago when my knitting interest picked up. I never really realized that there was a internet world out there for knitters. I just grew up knitting. My grandma taught me when I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I don't even remember. But for as long as I can remember, she was trying to teach me how to knit. And I do remember one of my first knits being the beginning of a yellow scarf in some sort of summer wool. It was like a pale yellow, and it was full of holes and long stitches and super tight stitches. I think my biggest struggle starting to knit was that I knit so tightly and just like trying to force the needle in to make the next stitch. And she would have to help me loosen up a row so that I could knit the next one, and then the same thing would happen, it would be super tight. But she did teach me how to knit, and after mastering some boring scarves, she taught me how to knit socks, and I wrote 2 full pages step by step on how to knit socks. And she has her own way of doing it. Let's see if I can show you. This is a sock made by her for me. It's knit in, I think it's Arne and Carlos. It does look like Arne and Carlos to me. And it's a ribbed sock with a flat foot underneath. And she does do a heel flap, but she doesn't do the gusset the same way. She kind of knits together. When she has made the flap, she knits it together here and then picks up. Instead of doing a short row kind of gusset, she just knits it together on a straight line. And her socks fit beautifully. We always got one for Christmas every year. Sadly, her hands aren't what they used to be, so we don't get them anymore. So that's a little bit of what inspired me to kind of pick up the knitting tradition in the family. So for the last years, I've been making socks for my brothers for Christmas. And I just think it's such a heartwarming idea of bringing on the family love of knitting. And I know that my great-grandma was also knitting. I think she was also spinning or weaving. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to ask my grandma. And her sisters also knit, and some of my many cousins are also starting to knit. I don't think they're as crazy as me yet, but maybe they will be. I know at least one of my cousins, she has 2 boys now, so she does knit a lot for them. I would say that I would not be the same person anymore without my knitting, because I knit all the time. If I'm sitting in the car, if I'm waiting for the ferry, if I have a spare moment, I knit. And for me, it's such a stress relief, and it just makes me happy. And I hope it makes you guys happy too, because we all deserve things that make us happy. And if that can be knitting, that's great. And yeah, so she taught me how to knit. And I do remember in, I think it was 8th or 9th grade, we have arts and crafts in school from, well, basically from when we start school until 10th grade. And we did pottery, and we were working with woods, we were sewing, we were painting, just kind of any crafts you can imagine we got to dabble in. I was really lucky as a child. The school I went to had a lot of funding for arts and crafts. And I remember that we had a few weeks of knitting, and at this time we were getting grades, so of course me, already then knowing that I wanted to be a doctor one day, I wanted to make sure that I got a good grade, because you needed good grades to go into the next school and so on. So I didn't just want to knit a simple scarf or a headband. No. I decided that I was gonna knit a lace scarf. So 14-year-old me just started knitting this super complicated lace scarf, if you ask me. It had yarn overs and crossovers and knit two togethers and slip knits and all these stitches that I had never knitted before, because I had only knitted stockinette. So that was very new to me, and I needed my grandma to teach me how to do the stitches. She helped me find the pattern and the yarn. I think it was some Alize cashmere wool that we bought in Turkey, because my parents have a house in Turkey. We call it our summer cottage, but it's a house. And we spent, or until Corona, we spent 3 months there every year if we had the time off from school to do so. So I had to ask my teachers to be allowed to take my work home, because there was no way I was going to finish this 2 meters long lace scarf in the little time that we had in school, which I think was 2 or 4 hours per week, so it was not enough. And I think the teachers were afraid that I was going to cheat, that I would get someone else to knit it for me, because they were really reluctant to allow me to take it home. But I just showed them in class that, look, it's me knitting it. It's just taking a lot of time, so I would like to be able to take it home. So luckily they did allow me that, and I did manage to finish. At the time I did not know about the properties of yarn and the fact that if you don't have a border on a scarf, a pattern that's mostly stockinette will kind of roll in on the edges. So sadly that happened to my scarf. It rolled in at the edges, and that because of that I haven't ever really worn it, which is a shame. But I think my parents still have it in our house, so if I go back there, maybe I'll see if I can find it and I can show you in a different episode. I would really like to know what you guys are knitting on, if you're knitting with me right now. So leave a comment below, because I love to get inspirations from your favorite yarns to whatever you're making at the moment. I am always looking for new ideas to what I can put on my needles. Yeah. So other than that, I am 26 years old now. I've been working as a doctor for 1.5 years now, and I grew up in Bergen, which is a city on the west coast. It's the second largest city in Norway, and I've lived there since I was 6 years old. Before that we lived in Førde, which is where my mom's from, and which is where I've been living for the past 2 years working. And my father is from Karmøy, which is a bit further south on the west coast, and Bergen is in the middle between those two cities. So all of them are really lovely places. I personally think the west coast is the best coast of Norway. It's next to the North Sea, and across the North Sea you have Iceland and England and Scotland, and yeah. And it also has very similar climate and nature compared to, I guess, Canada. If you look at the mountains and fjords and scenery, it's similar. And I went to normal, ordinary school. And then I went to, when I was, I guess, 17 years old, 16, 17, I changed to IB, which is called International Baccalaureate, which is an international program. It's kind of a mix between high school and university classes or college classes. And it's all in English, which is why I guess I speak quite fluently. And then after that, I moved to Poland to study. I went to a medical school that has both European and American guidelines, so that the plan was to move to the US at that time when I was 18. Those plans obviously changed. Politics and world things, and also me just wanting to move back home. But that was also in English, and most of my friends were American or Canadian, so I guess technically for the past 8 years before moving back to Norway, I mostly spoke in English, and my Norwegian has had to suffer for that fact. I think talking is fine, but my writing skills are awful. When I was in high school, they even tested me for dyslexia because I had so many writing mistakes in my work. I didn't have it. I just think that my head works faster than my hands, and I'm too impatient to check what I've written, so I just send it off, and then afterwards I say, ooh, that was a lot of mistakes. But life's too short to worry about the little things. It's the big picture, right? So yeah, medical school in Europe is 6 years. I know in the US, because of my friends from there, you do pre-med, which basically could be most subjects, but you do need to have some sciences. And then after 4 years of pre-med, you do 4 intense years of medicine. But in Europe, you just do 6 intense years of medicine instead. But I guess they have a little extra smaller classes that the 4-year program didn't need to have. And we also have a little bit longer time to finish each class in the 6-year program. Longer summer vacations for one, which I think was really nice. And I was 24 years old when I graduated as a doctor, and I think that was young enough. If it was a 4-year program, without, of course, having to do the pre-med, I would have been way too young. I think age is a good thing. Experiences along the way help you understand other people a lot more. I did travel twice during my medical studies to do volunteer work, and I think it's some of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. The first one was when I was in my 5th year. I went to South Africa with it was called Shoko. We went into the settlements in the evenings together with students from the medical school there to do kind of evening clinics for free for those who couldn't afford them. And I was just amazed by how beautiful South Africa was in Cape Town. The nature was stunning, it was so colorful, amazing food, and the people, to me, the people were just so warm and smiling. Even people who didn't have anything, and if a Norwegian person was in that situation, they would just complain and be so angry. They were just so smiling and loving to talk to, and I would love to go back one day. I think it was a really good experience. And in my 6th year, when I finished medical school, I still had a few months before I could start work. So I went to Tanzania to work in a hospital there that was initially started by a Norwegian doctor in the 1950s, I think. And I was working in the Knit Co there with premature babies, and that was also a really nice experience. However, I have a phobia for bugs. Like, I am insanely scared of bugs. As a kid, it was spiders, and then it moved on to ticks as well. And then after my love of wool, it spread to larvae from moths. And then when going to Tanzania, I thought that, oh, you know, we're going to be in the bushes, there's going to be a lot more bugs. This will be like a nice exposure therapy, right? Wrong. It was awful. I think my watch that measures my pulse said that I had 120 beats per minute for all of the weeks that I was there. Because there were cockroaches everywhere and termites in the bedroom, and I was sleeping with like a mosquito net around the bed. I wasn't afraid of mosquitoes or malaria, no. I was afraid of bringing cockroaches and termites with me back home to Norway, because I was already scared of larvae and all these other things, so yeah. So now that I'm living here on the farm, there's also a lot of bugs. I don't allow anyone to open the windows because I'm scared that moths are gonna come in and destroy my stash and my knitwear. Because when I lived in Poland, that happened once, and I had to throw away so much. I know that you can wash things and hope it goes away, but I wasn't having any risks, so I got rid of it, and it was so sad. And it kind of made everything worse with my anxiety for that. So I put all of my stash is in either plastic boxes with lids that don't have any air coming through, or in like vacuum travel plastic bags, just to make sure that nothing gets in there. And I keep lavender bags or lavender scents of some form with my knitwear and inside the stash as well. So that was a little rant about how I'm scared of bugs. But we all have something we're scared about, right? I guess it could be a lot worse fears than what I have. It's from experience, I guess, what I'm afraid of. Otherwise, I do have that questions thread on Ravelry, so if there's anything specific you would like me to talk about, you could ask me on there, and I will take that with me for a future episode to answer in a little sit and knit with me section. And what I have some suggestions for things to watch. I personally do watch a lot of podcasts. Maybe not in the evenings when I know that I can sit down for several hours. Then I'll be watching TV shows and movies. But I do watch podcasts throughout the day whenever I have some time. And my favorite podcasts, I think, are the more calm podcasts, such as The Gentle Knitter and Fiber Tales. I really, really do enjoy those. I recently came across Tricolibri, or it's a French podcast by Emma, and she makes beautiful things. However, I don't speak French, so I don't understand what's being said, but I can still enjoy watching it, so you should check that out. And Fiber Tales, it's a Danish podcast in English by Lærke, which is a girl from Denmark. She has 2 little kids, and she lives on a beautiful island with a forest, and she does include some footage from the nature there, and she designs beautiful garments. And I actually have 2 garments that I've knitted by her, a shawl and a pair of socks. So I'll show that in the future. And then the Gentle Knitter podcast is made by Nicole from Canada, and she as well is a lover of rustic yarns, and she makes stunning garments. She loves more the cooler tones, while I'm more of a warm-toned person, but I can still appreciate all the lovely yarns and fabrics, and I can just imagining making the same in my preferred colors. There are two other podcasts that I really enjoy. It's Stress Knits Yarn by Stacy. She is from the US and she has her own indie dyeing company with a lot of lovely muted and pastel tones. She's really cute and you should check her out. She has a pug and a little daughter and a husband, of course, to go with those two. And she makes stunning colorways and she's really cute. And then I recently discovered the Knit Witch. She is working, or she lives on a farm at least, I think in the US. And she's quite new to knitting, but what she's made so far is really, really pretty. And from the UK, my favorite is Dunderknit. She is funny. She does swear, and I kind of love that about her. She is herself 100%, and she has a stunning jeweled tone preference as well as gold preference in her yarn. So if you are looking for some new podcasts, you should check them out. Otherwise, I have been really tired lately with a lot of shifts at work, so I haven't had the mental capacity to find a new show that I enjoy. So I've actually rewatched all of Game of Thrones, as well as all of Penny Dreadful. I wanted to see some dark and mysterious show now that we are getting into the spooky season. So Penny Dreadful is kind of supernatural, kind of a costume drama from the beginning of the 1900s. It's a good show. I liked it. It's not for everyone. I personally do love violence and blood and gore and all of that stuff. Fantasy and action is kind of my genres. Just because I like to completely separate my reality away from whatever I'm watching, so it's just a complete mindless thing for me. I can just relax and dream away. And I've rewatched all of The Hobbits and all of Lord of the Rings. So I don't know what to watch now, because my favorite movies to rewatch is Harry Potter, The Hobbit, and The Lord of the Rings. And for TV shows, it's Game of Thrones. So I guess I'm gonna either have to find a new show or rewatch something again, but we'll see. Maybe I'll let you know in a future episode what else I've gotten into watching. So on that note, I hope you're all doing well. I am. I'm just tired. It's gonna be a dark season here. It's already dark almost when I get home from work now. So I'm just gonna have to try and squeeze in some sessions whenever I can. I did get this extra little light, and I do hope that it's making it a little bit better so that you can see me at least, even though it's a bit darker outside. And I hope you're knitting on beautiful things. I hope that you will let me know maybe what beautiful things you're making. Give me some inspiration. And if you would like to see more content like this, just subscribe below. It's free, and my movies will pop up when you open YouTube if I post out something new. And I hope you have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is where you are, that you're enjoying some nice beverage and that you find the time to sit down with your knitwear. And I will see you soon. Bye!